Welcome back to my channel. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. My name is Tiana. I do all kinds of things on this channel. Following my micro-Loc journey is the biggest thing, but we talk about so much, and in particular hair care and hair stuff because it's something that I'm passionate about. If you don't know, I am a licensed cosmetologist, so I did have my license in doing hair and all that fun stuff. And yes, and I have micro-Locs, which makes it fun because you all can follow my journey. And so yes, if you're interested in any of those things, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, or you could click or subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe. But let's get started. Let's check this out. Make sure that it's on. As always. Oh, I see somebody, so we're getting somewhere. Hold on, ignore the playback because I can't turn it down while when it comes on, it has its own volume. Oh look, I did it. But yes, y'all, let's get into this. Okay, so I am so excited for this video. But I already know, like, hey Sister Francis, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? How's everybody? I know some people had off for Juneteenth and some didn't. So if you had off, yay you. And if you didn't, that wasn't right. They should have gave us all off. But yes, I know this is gonna be controversial because I debate my sister on this all the time. Hi. I debate my sister on this all the time. And so yeah, and she agrees with some things, but she doesn't agree with everything. So yes, you're welcome to give your thoughts and comments on the live or in the comment section down below, whatever makes you happy. But let's just get into it. So to me, and I've dealt with a lot of different hair types. I don't even know how long I've been doing hair, but I got my license pretty early. So and I was doing hair when I was a child. When I was a child, I was like doing everybody's hair, all my friends' hair. If you didn't watch my hair story, it is one of the old lives, but you can watch that. So it's been a few years. I'm trying to think. I've had my license for 12, 13 years. So I've had my hair license for 13 years, but I've been doing hair since I was in school, since I was in like 5th grade. That's when I realized I could do this myself. And that's why this is so important to me, because again, if you watch my hair story, I explain how when I was growing up, so my parents, God bless them, they had 10 kids, right? So when I was growing up though, for a while, it was just me and my older sister, and we have 2 different hair types and 2 different hair textures. Greetings, Simply Me. We have 2 different hair types, 2 different hair textures, so it takes different things to maintain our hair. However, growing up, it was easy for my mom and grandmom to kind of work with my sister's hair, but my hair was always different, and they just could not figure it out, y'all. They could not figure out why this thing would work for her hair, but it would not work for mine. And now that I'm older and I went to school and all that fun stuff and I learned about hair, I know it was because of my hair texture. And so that's one of the reasons why I started doing hair, because I'm like, yep, I have to tell y'all business. Because I'm like, I just always wanted to work with my own hair, and at the time we were wearing, you know, like adding hair to our hair, those type of things, but I didn't like that. I felt like I had to add hair to mine to feel like I was pretty or to feel like I was beautiful. So I'm like, oh no, like we gotta make this work. So anyways, let's get into it. I wrote down some stuff. If anything else comes to your mind while I'm talking, then we can absolutely talk about it. So I'm actually gonna flip the screen down to show you some things that you need to know, which I have talked about on a short before. So let's see how this works out. I think this can work, but I'm not sure. I might have to hold it. So let's make sure you all have plenty of light. And this is actually going to be a shadow, but hopefully you can see. If you can't see and it's terrible, let me know. So I'm going to try to flip this down. I know that it's going to be a little maybe crooked. Let me see if I can make it straight. Am I making it worse or better? Okay. Looks like you guys should be okay, okay? So here we go. So there's 2 things that you have to know, and it's going to keep turning, so I'm sorry about that. But there's there's 2 things you have to know, which I did talk about in my live, so hopefully you will get it. So there's 2 parts of your hair that you have to know. You have to know kind of your hair texture and your wave pattern, because they're 2 different things, but we usually talk about them the same. I'm trying to make this look to you as straight as possible. Anyways, so we talked about this, right? That your hair strand. So your hair strand could be fine. And I know this is going to be backwards to y'all. I don't know how to not make it backwards, but maybe I'll turn it around. Or it could be medium, like your hair strand itself could be medium. And you also could have a hair strand that is nice and thick, which means your hair strand itself is thicker. It's just thicker than other hair strands. So if you pull out your hair strand, this is what it looks like. It's either going to be fine, really thin, or it could be a medium strand, or it could be a thick strand, right? So you have to consider that when it comes to your hair, because that determines the products you use, the styles you could do, how you have to do the styles, and how you have to care for your hair. So that's one part when I talk about your hair type. And then you also have the other concept, which is my favorite one, because to me, this one matters the absolute most to me, and that is your wave pattern. This is my favorite concept, because when it comes to hair, this is the one I focus on the most in order to know what I have to do to somebody's hair, or what I have to do to my own hair. And this is what kept tripping my my mom up, my grandmom up, and what I had to learn most about my hair that made it so different. So there's a whole bunch of hair types, and essentially you have hair types that are straight, and you have hair types that are curly. No, let me do wavy first, because you do have wavy. Wavy is a thing which people are bringing more awareness to, which needs to be, because your hair, if your hair is wavy, that makes a difference too. So you have straight hair, wavy hair, then you have curly hair, and then you have extremely curly hair. This is me. I'm way over here. So there are so many different types of hair wave patterns, but these are like the basic ones. So let me bring you up real quick. And let me show you, because I put some pictures on here for us. So here you go with hair types, and I think I can make this bigger. Hold on. I thought I could. There you go. So you have the different type of hair types, right? Which is why I always say that I'm 4C, because it's the most curly one. What I don't like, however, is how people always call 4C hair coily hair or kinky hair. Now, I don't mind coily. I'm okay with coily, because it's pushing it, but I'm okay with coily. It's the kinky that I don't like. Kinky, because I feel like that's another word that you're using instead of saying nappy. And when I was growing up, everything was calling anybody who did not have type 1, 2, or type 3, 3A hair and down. Anybody who didn't have 3A hair down to 1, your hair was considered nappy, because that was just not acceptable. But you do have all different types of hair types, and this is mostly, these pictures, which they don't use the word, but they should be, is really talking about your wave pattern. The picture I just drew, that's your wave pattern. Does your hair have a lot of wave to it, or does it have a little bit of wave to it, or does it have no wave at all? Does it coil around on itself? Like, what does it do? All right, so these are your different types of hair types. Let's see if I can make this small, because if not, I'm gonna cry. Hold on. Can't get it off the screen. Blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Ay, ay, ay. See, I should have known. I should have known that I can't try this with this thing. Hold on, hold on. We're gonna do it. Okay. All right, I did something jaded that I wasn't supposed to have to do. Anywho, so those are your wave patterns, right? So let me bring you back to my little good picture that I'm drawing that I know you guys love. Here's the thing, right? This is why I say some hair textures or hair types are easier for you to grow or to manage. because when you have straight hair, you do not have any real breaking points. And if your hair is breaking a lot when it's straight, it could be because your hair strand itself is actually fine. Now, if your hair strand is fine, then it's easier to break something that's so thin. So this is easier to snap it, right? And what happens a lot of times is people who have curly hair, and especially the really, really curly hair, a lot of times we also have fine hair. So our strands are really, really small, really, really skinny, and it's extremely curly, which makes us extremely, extremely, extremely prone to breakage. Because you have to consider, right? If you're talking about breaking points, I wish I had a pencil. So I don't know if I want to write this, but I feel like you guys won't see a pencil. If you're talking about breaking points, straight hair has none. Unless this thing is fine. So it has 0 breaking points. Wavy hair has some. It has like a little point here. So everywhere there's a curve, it can be a breaking point. So anywhere there's a curve. So these could all be breaking points. So like 3 to 6 breaking points on this one, right? Then you have this poor one. These loops are extremely fragile, which is why oftentimes it's not the best thing for us to straighten our hair and flat iron it, because we're pulling these apart. And if your hair is fine and you pull these apart, then you make it extremely fragile. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 loops, which makes it break. But then this whole part here that is a loop makes it easier to break off as well. So this one's got about 4, right? Everywhere there's a loop. Then you come and look at people with extremely, extremely curly hair, and our loops are just ridiculous. Like, the loops just get out of hand. If I was to count all these loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's say about 20. I didn't count them all, but let's say there's about 20 different breaking points here. And I did exaggerate. I clearly didn't do all the hair types, like 3A, 3B, 3C. I just kind of did like the main ones for them all. But if you look at it, this one has 0 breaking points. This poor one has 20 breaking points. And God help you if your hair is also fine, then yes, it makes it easier for your hair to break off a lot. So a lot of times you have people with straight hair whose hair is often longer. You have people with wavy hair, or they could have a curl, but it's a loose curl. And their hair is able to grow out longer, not because it's growing from their scalp longer, but because they just have less breaking points. And these less breaking points makes their hair not as susceptible to breaking off. It has less breaking points. And also, when it comes to your different types of wave pattern, you're also talking about product, right? So if I am trying to put product on this, it's not going to take a lot of product. I'm just going to put it on. It's not going to take a lot. There's other things to consider, like the porosity of your hair and how well does your hair absorb and hold in water. But clearly, if I'm trying to put water on this hair, it's going to coat the whole strand. Trying to put water on extremely curly hair, it's got to get through all of these loops before it can actually get into the hair strand, which again makes it a little bit more difficult. So for me, for the most part, when it comes to products and hair, the less curl you have, many times you can use lightweight products. But the more your hair is curly, you have to use heavier products. A lot of creams, a lot of intense moistures. For me, when I did condition my hair, I always chose things that were like deep moisture. If I was using a conditioner, even though I was not deep conditioning my hair that day, I chose the deeper moisture because I have to get the product into all of these coils that it has to wrap around, which requires me to have a product that is thicker so that it can actually coat my hair strand. So it does matter. So with all of these different breaking points that this one has, this requires you to be a lot more gentle with this type of hair than with this type of hair than with this type of hair. And this is why I don't like the word kinky, because it takes away from the fact that this hair is curly. It's just extremely curly. It has a lot more curls than this hair. And a lot of times for us that have natural hair, you see a range of textures from all of these from us. And this one is still considered curly. So I don't like that we changed the name from kinky, from curly, and then we don't want to call this curly anymore. We just want to call it kinky. That's not fair. Hey, Kyara, how are you? So, with that being said, okay, sometimes people with this type of hair or even this type of hair can do things to their hair and it be okay. And then those of us with extremely curly hair, we cannot do that. It will not be okay. So keep this in your mind. Wave pattern is how curly your hair is. And then you have this part too, which is your strands. And like I said, most times extra curly hair has fine strands, maybe medium, but it's rare that we would have thick quarter strands, but it could happen. It absolutely can happen. So the reason why I'm always debating with my sister, like certain hair textures are just easier because they just don't have as many break points. They just really don't. So sometimes they could be doing foolish stuff to their hair, but because their hair is long, people will say, oh, that's so great. You know, I should try it too. But if your hair is not their same wave pattern and you try something foolish on your hair might tell on you that, hey, that wasn't that smart. So I often use the example of my sister and I. So when we were natural, we did, like I've been talking about on the book, we did the full year of keeping our head covered and we didn't do anything to our hair. We didn't blow dry it. We were not styling it. We just kept it in 2-strand twist. For me, it was chunky, and I think they were kind of chunky for her too. 2-strand twist, and just kept, thank you. I wanted to wear a button, but I broke the button just before I started, so sad about that. But so when we finally was finished our year, then we wanted to flat iron our hair and see like how long did it get, because we both worked. Like I said, I had just cut off all of my relaxer, which I should not have done, but I didn't know better at the time. But I cut off all of my relaxer and she had cut all of hers off probably like months or a year before me. I can't really remember which one. But after our year of not doing our hair, then we went on and we flat ironed it because we wanted to see how long it would grow, right? Like did this method really work? And you were able to see obviously how long it had grown. So then the thing about flat ironing your hair when it's natural is like if you do it once, you kind of get hooked and you're like, oh God, I want to flat iron it again, even though it's not good. So my sister was flat ironing her hair, y'all, like every week. Like every time she washed it, a while later she started flat ironing it like every week, and her hair was fine. Her hair was like, we could do this. Let's just flat iron ourselves every week. And sometimes if like she had to fix it, I think she would like, if she had to fix something, she would fix it throughout the week as far as like flat ironing it again to get another part straight. No problem. Her hair had no problem with it. So little old Tiana, I'm like, oh, let me try it. So me with my extra curly hair thought I was going to get away with flat ironing every week or every time that I wanted to flat iron it just like her. And immediately, my hair was like, no, absolutely not. This is not what we're going to do. So immediately, I could instantly tell that my hair was breaking off. And I didn't even do it that much. I probably did it like maybe 2 times, maybe 3. Like I wasn't even doing it as much as she was, but instantly my hair was like feeling drier, it was brittle, and I could tell that it was not as strong and it was breaking off. So I knew, okay, I can't do it. However, if you see my sister's hair when she was natural, she had waist length hair before she did her locks, right? So the good thing about my sister is she's extremely patient. She does really, really well with hair. So she was able to maintain her length, and she wasn't, now when her hair grew waist length, she wasn't flat ironing it as much, but when she was flat ironing it, it wasn't hurting her like it was hurting me. So she was able to flat iron it, and I was not able because of how curly my hair is. Because for me to take all of these curls and make it straight, that's way too many curls and kinks I have to press out, and it's way too many breaking points that obviously were breaking because I was stretching it, versus her hair was a little bit looser than mine. So for her to get from here all the way to there to straight, it wasn't as bad, it wasn't as damaging. But let's just say that my sister continued to flat iron her hair, and then other people saw, oh, you know, your hair is long, what do you do? And let's say she told them, oh, I just flat iron mine all the time, and that's okay, and that works for me. then that person takes it, which is what I did. That person takes it and it's like, oh, then I could do it too. And then the next thing you know, you have breakage because no, you cannot do it too. Your hair type and your hair texture is different. So having different hair types and hair textures means that we all can't do the same thing. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized while I was younger, that's why when my parents would try, or when my mom, my grandma would try to do something to my hair that they had done to my older sister's hair, it worked for her, but for me, my hair was like, no, not at all, not at all. And then that's also including the fact that I'm allergic to everything. So you can't even put certain stuff in my scalp without my hair having a bad effect or reaction to it. So that brings me to the title of this video, y'all. Let me know what you think, because I know that some people like to be like, no, it's just good hair care. It is just good hair care. It definitely is having good hair care. But what happens is a lot of people with longer hair do not always have good hair care. Sometimes they have hair care that is not good, and yet they can get away with it. Then they share those methods with other people, and people try it and they don't see the same growth, or their hair doesn't look the same, and they wonder why. But it could be because of your hair texture. The curlier your hair is, you have to be gentle with it, because you have way too many breaking points, just way too many. So you have to be gentle, you have to be caring, you have to get products that actually allow you to coat your hair and get inside of all of these several curls that you have. You have to. And also, again, consider whether or not your hair is fine. If you have a fine hair strand, again, it's susceptible to breakage. Because you can have a loose curl, but a very fine hair strand. And that, again, means that you're susceptible to breakage. So if you're not sure what type of hair you have, then when your hair starts, when you're doing your hair and you're like going through, you know, whenever you do your hair, you're going to see some hair come out. Look at those hair strands and see how is it when it comes out. If you live in a household with other women, then you also could take your hair strand and compare it to someone else's to see if yours is thin as far as your hair strand itself, if it's a really fine and thin hair strand, or if it's coarse, and that will help you to know it as well. Because if you find out your hair is extremely curly like mine and your strands are extremely fine like mine, then you know you have to be extra patient and extra careful with your hair. And I also want to say this before I go, again, in the lines of not doing everything that everybody else's hair can do. For me, when I was a loose natural, I used to, like I said, I used to flat iron my hair probably like once a year or something like that to see if it grew or whatever the case may be. Then later on, I stopped flat ironing my hair and I just let it just be natural, and I actually stopped blow drying it too. So my hair got extremely curly, and what I thought was my hair texture was not. So certain styles that I could do to my hair, I was not able to do when my hair got healthier, because the more healthy it was, the curlier it was. So there were some things I had to learn. For example, like a lot of people talk about using a wide tooth comb to detangle your hair. For me, that was not a good thing. I could not use a wide tooth comb. It doesn't matter how wide. I couldn't use a wide tooth comb, and I could not use a brush, like a Denman brush or anything, to detangle my hair. I had to finger detangle. I'm just dropping everything. I had to finger detangle. So if you're somebody who does your hair and you feel like you want to see if you could prevent some breakage, see if you could finger detangle it. And again, I do hair, so I'm very used to gripping very small or fine things when it comes to hair. So I'm really good at finger detangling. And it does take practice, but I would suggest to try it. If you have curly hair, especially extremely curly hair, try it, because I know for me, I could not comb it, and I did not even use a Denman brush or anything. It didn't matter. It just something about putting some kind of tool on my hair to go through it. It would always snag on a curl, always, and I could feel it, and I could ignore it and still do it. But I know if it's feeling like that, then something is breaking, something's snagging. So I went to just finger detangling my hair, and it worked for me. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that hair is different, and just because somebody's hair is long doesn't mean they're doing the right thing. And it also, of course, doesn't mean that you could do it, but there are some good hair practices. There are several people with really curly hair, with really long hair. They're just hard to find, because even a lot of people on YouTube, some people I won't even watch because I'm like, her hair don't look like mine. Her hair does not look like mine. It's not as curly as mine. She could be natural. She could have very curly hair, but it's not as curly as mine. So I know if I'm looking for someone to get advice from, I have to get it from someone who has hair like mine. And just because your hair is dark does not mean it's extra curly. Just because you are just because you're a dark-skinned person, because I think people mix that too, it doesn't mean that your hair is extra curly. It really is your hair extremely curly or not? And again, you know, mine is so curly you can't even see it sometimes. It's like you can't even see that it's a curl there. You can't even see it. It just looks like a ball, but it's not a ball. It's just extremely small tight curls. And not everybody has hair like that, so it makes a difference how you do your hair. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Any other questions, suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below. But keep that in mind, y'all. If I can leave you with anything, just learn what kind of hair you have, because it matters with everything you do to it. The styling, you know, you can't do as much styling with extremely curly hair as you can do with hair that has a looser curl, because the more, every time you touch yours, you risk breaking it off. And that's reason why, by Kyra, that's one of the reasons why extremely curly hair does so well with locks, because we're not touching it. Then that's kind of like, to our hair, that's like, oh, thank you. Thank you for leaving me alone, because we're not touching it. And since we're not touching it, we're not detangling it, we're not, you know, taking it out of something, combing through it, putting it back into a two-strand twist or whatever the case may be, we cut down on the risk of breaking our hair in so many different spots. So yes, keep that in mind when it comes to styling your hair. Please keep it in mind when it comes to styling your baby's hair, because y'all, just because, I promise I'm about to get off, but stuff keeps coming to my head. Just because you're a mom or you have a certain type of hair, it does not mean you and your daughter have the same type of hair. So again, I can't do what my mom does to her hair. Her curl pattern is even looser than my sister's curl pattern. We can't do the same thing. My sister, Shades of Sage, her daughter's hair is very similar to mine. Her daughter's hair is extremely curly, but Shades of Sage hair is not that curly. So Shades of Sage has to treat her daughter's hair different than she has to treat her own hair, because it's different. So even if your mom and daughter, keep in mind that y'all might not have the same hair texture, and you might have to do things differently. And definitely pay attention to your wave pattern. That lets you know what you can and cannot do to your hair. The more curls, the less you need to do. If you have bigger curls, you can get away with some stuff. But the more curls, the more you need to let your hair just leave it alone and do those styles that allows it to relax versus you always manipulating it and messing with it. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your night, and until next time, adios.